Welcome back, friends. When we left off, the Jamestown colony had barely survived its first 7 years. The colonists had not been prepared for the challenges they would face in those first few years, but they managed to figure it out. Those initial challenges were just the beginning, though. Now that they had a somewhat peaceful relationship with the natives and were able to grow crops, they were on their way to making money and thriving. As they expanded outside of Jamestown and became Virginia, their needs would increase if they wanted to make it sustainable. As always, let's take a moment to identify our learning targets before we dive in. First, I can identify the importance of the Virginia General Assembly. Second, I can describe the impact that the arrival of Africans and women had on the Jamestown settlement. Being sustainable means that something can be maintained or kept up for long periods of time. A sustainable exercise routine is one that I could do daily without overworking or injuring myself. In order for the Virginia colony to be able to sustain itself, it needed a local government. Think about it. These were English citizens under the rule of the king who lived 3,000 miles away. If you lived here and your parents lived in another country, would you listen when they told you to go to bed every night at 8 p.m.? Probably not. This was the same problem for the colonists. Their leaders were in England with an appointed governor in Virginia, and it took 6 months round trip to get information there and back. So, in 1619, the governor formed the Virginia General Assembly. This was the first representative legislative or lawmaking body in North America. It was made up of two elected burgesses from each division of Virginia, the governor, and his appointed governor's council. They were responsible for making laws and collecting local taxes. Besides having the ability to make important decisions quickly, the Virginia colony needed to start making more money if they were truly going to live there permanently. With the help of the Powhatan people, the colonists had learned which crops grew easily in the area, and that included tobacco. This particular type of tobacco was mild and became very popular in England. However, the colonists had family farms and relied on very small workforces to grow and harvest the plants. As a result, they were limited in how much money they could make. However, there were countries around the world who participated in slave trade, and Portuguese sailors began to bring Africans who had been taken against their will from present-day Angola to Virginia. In 1619, the first Africans arrived in Virginia, where they were quickly bought and put to work on tobacco farms. The sudden increase in workers allowed Virginia to start exporting massive amounts of tobacco and became highly profitable. The final and most important piece of the puzzle to becoming a permanent colony was the arrival of women. Up until this point, there had to be a steady stream of new colonists coming from England. Once the colony stabilized, women were able to begin coming over. They married the colonists who were already in Virginia and started families. Now the men felt connected to Virginia and they could start their lives here, and their children would be the next generation to work the farms and maintain the colony. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of yet another lesson. At this point, it's time to self-reflect. You should be able to answer the following 3 questions successfully based on this lesson. Number 1, why was the Virginia General Assembly important? Number 2, how did the arrival of Africans impact the Virginia colony? And lastly, how did the arrival of women impact the Virginia colony? If you can successfully answer these questions, you are ready to move on.